Hey, welcome back everyone to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 199 here at my co-facilitator Lionel.
Hello, hello, everyone. How you doing today? How you doing today, Mike?
I'm good, brother. Yourself?
I am well.
All right. Please hit the like button as you come in. Share the video if possible. There's a document description beneath the video for you to follow along with, and we will get started. Let me share my screen. What's going on with this? All right, here we go. All right. So first item on the docket is from notebookcheck.net. Atomic Pi, a Raspberry Pi alternative with an Intel processor that costs less than $35, has emerged. The Atomic Pi is an affordable Raspberry Pi alternative equipped with an Intel Atom Cherry Trail processor, 2 gigabytes of RAM, and 16 gigabytes of eMMC flash storage. At the heart of the Atomic Pi is an Intel processor. Unlike many ARM-powered Raspberry Pi alternatives, specifically, Digital Loggers has opted for the Atom X5Z 8350, a quad-core chip that has a 1.44 gigahertz base clock, which it can boost up to 1.9 gigahertz uh, across all cores. The 14 nanometer CPU integrates Intel HD graphics Cherry Trail, which Intel bases on the Intel HD Graphics 5300. The Atomic Pi also has 2 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM on board, along with 16 gigabytes of eMMC flash storage, which can be expanded with up to 256 gigabytes of micro SD cards. Moreover, there are USB 3.0 and 2.0 Type A ports for connecting additional mass storage or peripherals. The developer board has an HDMI output that also supports audio out and Qualcomm CSR 8510 chipset that supplies the Atomic Pi with Bluetooth 4.0 connectivity. There is also a MediaTek RT 5572 that supports up to I 802.11n Wi-Fi and can connect up to 2.4 and 5 gigahertz networks. There is a Realtek gigabit Ethernet as well. So this is um this is pretty interesting. This basically nullifies any reason to even buy a Raspberry Pi. Before, the Raspberry Pi was specific because it was cheap, it was affordable, and you can do a whole lot with it. Now, Intel has, this Intel board is leaps and bounds faster than the Raspberry Pi itself. So I'd be interested in seeing what the performance variations are with Linux and other forms of operating systems and artificial intelligence as well, machine learning. I'll be interested to see what the performance numbers are for that.
Yeah, I remember a few weeks ago we went over another one of these boards where they were talking about. I think it was for specifically artificial intelligence, if I'm not mistaken. And
NVIDIA.
yeah, okay, okay. So also we went over others also, and this seems like, well, don't even seem like, this looks like this is the best one of all that we covered. The best one of all.
It's good actually. tracking.
Repeat that. I think I don't know if you breaking up. I'm breaking up. Repeat that again.
No, I was saying that it's good because it's actually good. Um, it's actually capable of building up blockchain, so you can actually use it as a node because it's x86 compatible because it's an Intel processor.
Okay, that's cool. That's awesome. That's awesome. Now can you upgrade the memory?
No, you can upgrade the storage, but not the memory. So
Okay.
2 gigabytes is more than enough. So you'll run probably about half a gigabyte in for the operating system, and then the rest of that stuff is going to be for application space.
You know what the storage is what I meant. Not the memory. Yeah, the storage. Yeah, the storage. Yeah, well, since the storage is upgradable, that's good. That's
Yeah,
excellent.
storage goes up to 256 gigabytes through SD cards, right? So now I don't know what Bitcoin is at right now on a global scale in terms of storage capacity. I think it's like 220 gigabytes, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You could fit all of that into that one system.
That's good. That's good. And Bitcoin is adding around 60 gigs a year, averaging around 60 gigs a year. So yeah. All right. I I don't know if I'm breaking up. If it's you. Mm,
All right, let me get to the next article.
okay.
All right, this next one is from fastcompany.com. What we sacrifice for automation. Lessons from an Amazon warehouse in a world where increasingly anything that can be measured is. It seems that almost every week there is a controversial story or three in the news about Amazon. In the past 2 weeks alone, there have been stories about echo conversations being recorded and transcribed, Amazon employees protesting the company's poor position on climate change, the company's efforts to argue that face recognition fears aren't significant, and Senator Warren questioning Amazon's $0 federal tax bill on a $10 billion U.S. profit. A company as large as Amazon, with as broad a reach in terms of products and services, is going to be in the news. And unfortunately for them, most of the stories profile their lack of compassion, interest, or help to the world writ large, particularly to their fellow humans. One story in the past few weeks that caught my attention was a piece in Vox that described an interview with a warehouse worker who was complaining about the temperature of the warehouse. As Rashard Long told the publication, the third and fourth floors are so hot that I sweat through my shirts, even when it's freezing cold outside. We have asked the company to provide air conditioning, but the company told us that the robots inside cannot work in cold weather. Damn. You know that had to be a brother too. His name is Rashad.
Ha.
While Long and others are involved in lawsuits with the company and are taking action to unionize, the most prominent complaints from workers seem to be focused on a single point. Amazon is claimed to be treating its workers like robots. In a statement sent to me after this story was published, Amazon disputed this account as absolutely untrue, claiming that systems and teams are constantly monitoring temperatures in fulfillment centers. The company said the average temperature of the facility where long work was 71.04 degrees Fahrenheit in mid December. Amazon associates are the heart and soul of our operations, a spokesman said. The safety of our employees is our top priority, and the health of each employee is valued beyond productivity metrics. We are proud of our safe working conditions, open communication, and industry leading benefits. However, from the outside, it looks like Amazon's warehouses are enacting Taylorism gone wild. As I previously written, Taylorism is an engineering management theory developed in the early part of the 20th century and widely adopted throughout engineering and management disciplines to this day. While it was originally used to manage manufacturing processes, focusing on organization efficiency, over time, Taylorism became embedded into our engineering and management culture. With the advent of computational tools for quantitative measurement and metrics, and the development of machine learning based on the big data developed by those metrics, those metrics, organizations, Amazon among them, started to transition through a period of what I refer to as extreme data analysis, whereby anything and anyone that can be measured is. The problem is, this is the problem. Using counting metrics and implementation of outcomes from extreme data analysis to inform policies for humans is a threat to our well being and results in the stories we are hearing about in the warehouse and in other areas of our lives where humans are too often forfeiting their agency to algorithms and machines. That must be Rashad. I'm not gonna read any more of this because I get the gist, and hopefully you guys get the gist as well because Amazon has a reputation, for overworking its people and people living inside trailers and living in their cars just to get to work. Um, just horrific conditions, just so they can turn profit. People talk about Walmart, those conditions and things of that nature. But this is in America that this is happening. This sort of um, extreme labor, by any means necessary. So,
Now, when he said that it was too hot,
mhm,
and he, the guy told him that the computers can't work at cold temperatures.
mhm.
That's blatantly a lie.
The robots can't work at.
Oh, the robots. Oh, okay, I thought you said computers. Okay, 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 okay,
Mhm,
okay.
mhm.
Um, yeah, that's a sweatshop in there, man. I can imagine he's leaving out, going home dehydrated. His pores is open, getting sick, and there's even been stories about and the article hit on it, but Amazon Alexa recording information because what happens is from the article I read, the Amazon partners with other people to help the Alexa recognize certain words. So some conversations is recorded. People saying, yeah, it's sometimes personal conversations. Even heard one story that said, I think I sent this out. I don't know, I can't remember, but it basically said they thought they heard somebody getting raped, and they reported it. And Amazon's reply was, "We don't get involved in something." So I can imagine the stories of that, of those people that work with Amazon.
I didn't hear about that one.
Yeah. I gotta look for the article. I gotta remember the article name.
Do you think your Google Home is doing the same thing?
Could be, no lie. It does come on and I don't even call the name. It just comes on.
Mhm. Makes you wonder. This next one is from NBCNews.com. Need a college degree to get a job? These companies say skills matter more. A growing movement, including employers and training groups, is focusing on worker skills rather than their level of education. Boston. Ryan Tillman French sat at the seventh floor desk early on Thursday morning, the skyscrapers of downtown Boston crowding the windows behind him. On a laptop in nearly an empty office, he worked on code for a web page he was developing for his employer. The learning materials company, uh, Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, I work in the same building as them. They're one story below me. In half an hour, he needed to join a conference call about changes to the company's website. He had been at Houghton Mifflin Harcourt for 4 months. Coding he liked. Meetings not so much. That's one thing I wasn't warned. I wasn't warned about when it comes to the corporate world. He said so many meetings. He's right about this. Tillman French, 26, grew up in a Detroit neighborhood where few people around him had jobs. He received an associate degree, hoping to eventually get a bachelor's and work as a financial advisor. Sounds like I know. Instead, he bounced from one unfulfilling job to the next in the hospitality and restaurant industries. In the fall of 2017, he moved to Boston and enrolled in a community college, planning to transfer to a 4-year program. One day, a friend forwarded an email about Resilient Coders, a boot camp that trains people of color for web development and software engineering jobs. On a lark, Tillman French went to a Resilient Coders hackathon, and the passionate staff told him, sorry, the passionate staff there sold him on the opportunity. After he finished the 14-week program, he said he had over 2 dozen interviews. Three employees asked him back. Only Houghton Mifflin Harcourt made an offer. Several years ago, Tillman French's resume would likely have ended up in the trash until last summer. Harcourt screened our web developer applicants who lacked a 4-year degree. Houghton Mifflin Harcourt wasn't alone in the practice. The previous decade saw a spike in the number of job listings requiring a bachelor's degree, even for so-called middle-class jobs. Think executive secretaries, production supervisors, IT help desk workers that have traditionally been filled by workers with an associate's degree or less. Analysts say that this degree inflation, as they call it, has strong opportunities for upward mobility for Americans without 4-year degrees. But now some workforce organizations, researchers, and regional civic leaders are pushing back, persuading companies to look beyond academic credentials and to instead hire people based on their skills. A growing number of businesses are listening. In the past few years, Apple, Google, IBM, and other high profile companies have stripped their bachelor's degree requirements from many of their positions. If this movement continues to gather steam, researchers say it could aid not only individual job seekers, but the U.S. economy by helping businesses hold on to workers by boosting the middle class. In 2014, the market analysis firm Burning Glass Technologies tried to capture the extent of degree inflation. The firm compared the percentage of people in the given occupation, say executive assistant, who have a bachelor's degree with the percentage of job listings for that occupation requiring a bachelor's degree. Who you have working for you and who you want to have working for you in the future always aren't the same, said Burning Glass CEO Matthew Siegelman. Siegelman found that 19% of the current executive assistants in a bachelor's degree had a bachelor's degree, but the 65% of the job listings for the position asked for one, a credentials gap of 46%. In surveying broader groups of occupations, Burning Glass found a credentials gap of 26% for the management jobs, 21% for computer and math jobs, and 13% for sales jobs. Let's get right past that. Anyways, I really want to focus on this because this brother right here. I work in the same building as this guy. This brother right here. So it's good to see that he's getting some shine, and he sounds like Lionel. Um, Same exact background, Lionel. What's going on?
Sounds good to me. That really sounds good to me. Now,
Hmm.
I'm going to read that article over again and really uh, pay attention to how he did it and really double down on these coding classes, taking up the free coding camp, those lessons, certifications, because with this platform that we have, the Black Brain Trust, it really nails home where you can actually go to get a lot of skills, a lot of learning. And it really it demystifies a lot of things and demystifies that you have to go to school for 12 years, incur debt, then you'll be able to maybe get a chance to work somewhere. This now we're seeing a revolution where it really harkens on how much you know, your skill. Are you able to continue to learn? Are you able to get and are you able to continue to sharpen your skills? How you doing, DE?
Pretty good, Linnell and Mike. How you guys doing?
Good brother. Good. Good. Um, Lionel and I have talked about getting into IT and what you need to do. And Lionel, did you thought about going back to community college and getting that associate's degree and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, and the only reason I thought about it was because I literally have one class left. But other than that, I'm focused on the certificates, the coding classes online, things that are actually sharpen my skill immediately.
But my point in saying that was that people think that what I say is this in theory, like I'm just talking BS. I don't know what I'm talking about. There's other platforms on in the manosphere that have tried to shout me down and try to make it seem like I didn't know what I was talking about. This article is now talking about today what we have been talking about for over a year now on this channel. So everything that they're saying, I had already said this going back to the early days of the Black Brain Trust. I know what I'm talking about. All this stuff about going to school and getting this degree and getting that degree and all that. That's yesteryear, right? That was 5 years ago. That was 10 years ago. You can say that honestly, and no one would have questioned you. Now, if you say that, it's kind of looking at people's side eye, asking, what's the return on investment? What's the ROI? My position has always been go to EDX. For less than a pair of Jordans, you can get yourself a certificate in coding, or go to Udacity. For less than an iPhone, you can get yourself a nano degree. I think that's what they call it. I know,
Yes.
right? You can get yourself a nano degree in artificial intelligence, coding, um, machine learning, variety of robotics, a variety of things, and these are the opportunities that's going to come for black men. That article points out a young black male who's on the come up, had no direction, was working at restaurants, washing dishes, and all types of demeaning work for a black man of his caliber. And now here he is making, $55,000 a year overnight. I've been beating this drum on this channel since day one. This is exactly what you need to be doing. This is not some pie in the sky sort of concept that I'm coming up with. I'm in the industry, so I know that this is possible. I've mentored several people on this platform in the last couple of months, and everybody's moving in the same direction now. You can go from minimum wage washing dishes to making middle class money. Pretty soon, this brother's probably gonna be he's probably gonna move on from this job and move on to another job, but he's gonna get paid more money. They're gonna give him 75 grand. They're not even gonna question it.
Hmm. And I would say when you do go to these sites and get this information of learning skills, um, you may feel that, oh, this maybe it's just too hard. The great thing about it, and I mentioned this before, the great thing about it is you keep at it, because what you're going into is continuous education. You're going to have to keep at it regardless if you feel like it's hard or not. You're going to have to keep at it. Two, whatever age you are, you're going to turn another age. So you're going to be 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. So are you going to turn the age with or without? And three, you always have YouTube. Supplement the education that you're learning. You can go to YouTube and look at videos, like create another account or something, and specifically look at videos pertaining to what you're learning. And YouTube will continuously feed like videos, and you'll just learn and learn. And don't cram, because you'll forget more than you learn. Take your time, pace yourself. You're gonna continuously learn anyway.
E.
Yeah, this that we talked about this. I think it was last month. But this what this young fellow did made a lot of sense. Seriously, the problem is that most black men around his age don't listen. Um, the women in the whispering in the ear, why are you doing that? This. But you don't really need a degree to do most of today's work. It is. It didn't happen like back in the '70s when I came here. I'm not saying that you're not supposed to improve yourself. You might work in that position for 15 years, and over the 15 years you might decide, you know what, I want to go into management or something like that. So you go ahead and get your degree, or you want to open your own company, and you want to have kind of education. You want to raise your level of education. But when you're starting out, you finding something that you like, and you're eager to do it. You're jumping in his position. He found what he liked, and it's paying him. You know what? He got paid to go into the position. He didn't um, had to spend 40, $50,000 and have this huge student loan debt behind him, and then can't find a job that pay off the student loan later.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he he got right into it, and it's paying him to work. Serious. It's you can't get better than that.
No, and the thing is, I don't think we should knock college education. There's a time and a place for that stuff. I wouldn't trade my college experience for what this guy's doing at all, but I understand why he's doing what he's doing. This is a career transition. I enjoyed my undergrad experience, so I'm not gonna turn back on that. But um, I can see a person like him who doesn't have a whole lot of time, doesn't have a whole lot of money, getting into something like this. I know the program that he went to too, 'cause I've heard people talk about it in person. So um, what I'm saying here is that I have, we do Black Tech Talks on Saturday nights, and many times over the last couple of seasons, since last year. You know, I focus a lot on IT because I think this is the place that Black men can actually be dominant in. Right? These are areas that are opportunity that are just sitting there waiting, and a brother like this, who's a great example of perseverance. He stuck out that 14-week program. He went through 13 plus interviews, and only three called him back. And knowing this company made an offer to him, these companies are looking for diversity and looking for it right now. Get a brother like that who still who still is able to maintain his culture, right? Keeps his dreadlocks, keeps his melanated skin, right? Probably still kept the same swagger, got the skills, and now he's making 50, 60 grand a year Just a few weeks ago, he was making, you know, $8, $10 an hour. This is real life, man.
One other thing that a lot of young black guys won't listen to this
Hmm.
information and really gravitate to is that,
Hmm.
say, 2 3 years down the road, and he could be creating his own company, or he could be shoot on the beach in Brazil. Um, I know a friend of mine that does this from the Philippines, and this guy is no slouch. His family is a $1 billion company. His family, and this guy, he runs the family business, and he does this on the side. I said, man, why you kill yourself? He said, Benny, I'm not going to throw away $1 million a year. I know how to do this. I'm serious. This guy is filthy rich already, and he's still doing this coding for companies in the U.S. and he's doing it from the Philippines. So you can do it from, like I said, 3 years down the road. This young brother might be working on his laptop from anywhere in the world, enjoy himself.
Hmm. We got 20 plus people watching, only 15 likes. Please hit the like button if you're not going to participate in the chat. This is free game.
Yes.
This is
Yes,
free game.
please. And I'll say
If,
this. I'll go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, if you had to go to a tech conference, you're going to be spending 2 3 grand a year on a conference alone.
Mm.
It's just to get this type of information. We're giving you this information for free, and we're not asking for no super chats. We don't have a Patreon. We don't have a Cash Me app. Or Cash Me Outside or whatever
Yeah,
it is.
I knew you was going there.
We 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 don't do any of that stuff. This is free game. We give you free game. Go ahead, Lana.
I will agree with DE wholeheartedly. A lot of guys don't listen. They say, "Yeah, yeah, I hate you." And well, I hear you, and it's hard to get through. Just telling them. A lot of people do have to be open for it. But I'm not saying don't stop telling people about it because you don't know who's open to it or not. You just be don't be angry when people say, "Yeah, yeah, I hear you. Okay, whatever, 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 man." And in the coding classes I'm going through, there's been times I say, I'll sit up there and scratch my hands like, "Oh, what are they talking about?" Then I'll go over it again, and I'll even slow down the video that they're talking about just to hear everything. And all of a sudden, I'm like, "Oh, that's it." And then move on, move on, and it's that easy. It literally is that easy.
Yeah, this is good stuff, man. That's why I'm glad I put that article on the docket, so that you all can see the examples of excellence with black men instead of sitting on a hangout for 8 hours a day talking about nothing. You could be in some coding boot camp, getting it in for real, and really about to get some of this bread that's sitting on the table out here that is untouched.
And what's crazy about it? Wow, I just had anyway. Um, you hear these hangouts and say, yeah, black people need to do this, do that. We just need to do this, and here we have a hangout that's talking about, okay, this is where you go do it, and we got 23 people watching.
Hmm.
In love with the struggle, man. In love with the struggle.
Hmm. Let me just show his picture again so y'all can see his whole setup. He's not. That's not a conference headset. That's a. He's chilling, listening to music. He's writing code, and nobody's bothering him for the most part. Got a couple of screens up. Um, he's working with a MacBook. They gave it to him. I work in that same building, so I'm. It's good to see that. It's good to see he kept his hair. He didn't have to cut his hair to get inside, to get an opportunity. Um, kept his little shape up. Hopefully he hits the gym in the same building because they got a gym in there right downstairs. good, man. It makes me proud to see black men like this advancing in this racist society. Anyways, let me get to this next article. Keep it techie. What's up, man? Radiant Woman asks, do you think that women can do this too at the Black Brain Trust? Yes. The classes actually don't discriminate. I've met several women who have been, black women who have been through that boot camp, and they're making big bucks now in artificial intelligence. So I think a couple of them work at Facebook or a couple of these tech companies in Boston. They're making $45 an hour just writing code. All right, this next one is from NVIDIA.com, from their blog. NVIDIA and Red Hat team to accelerate enterprise artificial intelligence. NVIDIA's accelerated computing platform and Red Hat OpenShift 4 help to speed on-premises Kubernetes deployments for AI and data science. For enterprises looking to get their GPU accelerated AI and data science projects up and running more quickly, life just got easier. At Red Hat Summit today, NVIDIA and Red Hat introduced the combination of NVIDIA's GPU accelerated computing platform and the just announced Red Hat OpenShift 4 to speed on-premises Kubernetes deployments for AI and data science. The result, Kubernetes management tasks that used to take an IT administrator the better part of a day can now be completed in under an hour. This collaboration comes at a time when enterprises are relying on AI and data science to turn their vast amounts of data into actionable intelligence. But meaningful AI and data analytics work requires accelerating the full stack of enterprise IT software with GPU computing. Every layer of software, from NVIDIA drivers to container runtimes to application frameworks, needs to be optimized. Our CUDA parallel computing architecture and CUDA X acceleration libraries have been embraced by a community of more than 1.2 million developers for accelerating applications across a broad set of domains, from AI to high performance computing to VDI. And because NVIDIA's common architecture runs on every computing device imaginable, from a laptop to the data center to the cloud, the investment in GPU accelerated applications is easy to justify and just makes sense. Accelerating AI and data science workloads is only the first step. However, getting the optimized software stack deployed the right way in large-scale GPU-accelerated data centers can be frustrating and time-consuming for IT organizations. That's where our work with Red Hat comes in. Red Hat OpenShift is the leading enterprise-grade Kubernetes platform in the industry. Advancements in OpenShift 4 make it easier than ever to deploy Kubernetes across a cluster. Red Hat's investment in Kubernetes operators, in particular, reduces administrative complexity by automating many routine data center management and application lifecycle management tasks. If you own NVIDIA stock, this is a very good thing. Rain Woman asked in the chat, can ex-felons do this? I believe there's a jail out in California, or I believe California itself, the state, has a program for guys who are coming out of jail to be programmers. So, you should check with your locality and see if that's actually available. But most jails won't actually they won't invest into a prisoner, because their investment in that prisoner is for for him to be a repeat offender and keep coming into the system. So, but back to this article. The whole for those who don't understand, Kubernetes is a container orchestration platform. So that's what pushes out these micro virtual machines used for application development and application hosting. So that what they've done with what NVIDIA and Red Hat has done, they've been able to leverage the hardware resources of NVIDIA GPUs and the Red Hat um, orchestration platform as a service for enterprises. So this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it sounds like Nvidia is doing a lot of good things nowadays. I keep hearing them in the news.
Yeah, they're deep inside the the GPU sector. So they have some of the highest performing graphics cards on the market. They're not like AMD though, because AMD makes CPUs first and GPUs second. But AMD competes with Intel and they also compete with Nvidia. So they're kind of teeter tottering between the two silicon giants. All right, this next one is from Engadget.com. Ford is taking its Go Ride patient transport service nationwide. The automaker will start with more Ohio cities and Miami and Florida. Ford has slowly but surely been expanding Go Ride's reach since it launched the non-emergency medical transportation service. Now, the automaker has revealed its plans to deploy the system to 40 cities nationwide over the next 4 years after a testing period in southeast Michigan and Toledo, Ohio. It will start by expanding its vans availability to Ohio cities, Dayton, and Cincinnati, Cleveland, and Columbus later this year. Not surprising since it's already in Toledo. Miami, Florida residents will be able to book rides for their doctor's appointments by the end of the year, or by the end of 2019 as well. In 2020, Ford plans to take its service to more states, including North Carolina, Louisiana, Texas, California. It'll most likely be confined to urban areas, though, since Ford is still figuring out how to effectively make Go Ride available in rural locations. Even so, the company expects to deploy 130 vans by the end of 2019 and over 200 by end of 2020. Those aren't enormous numbers, but they could be a start to a niche service that only intends to fill a gap and compete with smaller medical transport offerings by ride hailing giants. Go Ride drivers are trained to safely assist passengers with medical needs, after all, and they have wheelchair accessible vehicles. Go Ride Health is gaining momentum because it's a reliable human centered service for people whose very lives depend on making their medical appointments. Despite a critical and growing need across our country, most patients are unable to find reliable transportation and drivers who understand their needs. Go Ride Health can fill the gap. I know. Um, you have any insight or opinion on this?
This is pretty good. Right now, it's pretty interesting, really. Now you have private companies that do ambulatory transportation people in wheelchairs, and it's not hard to get in to start that type of business for yourself. Now, I'm thinking Ford sees that and they say, well, this is a lot of car manufacturers and others are focusing on taxis. Like that has become the de facto entry of EVs and things like that. But now it seems like Ford thought outside the box and they are saying, well, we're going to go somewhere else where all these other people are not. And they pinpointed at least this industry to do it in, and it is a wide open industry in terms of no other major company domin- dominates this industry across the country.
Yeah, Linnell, you're completely correct about this thing, man. Because I the only place I ever seen this thing operated is in New York City. My stepdad had to use it, and he had to make an appointment like almost a month ahead of time. If he called them today, if he got to go for an appointment at 5 o'clock in the evening, he called them in the morning. He couldn't get them. So that's I mean, especially if they expanded throughout the country, they'll be using thousands of vehicles if they can get the people, the drivers, and
Right,
people
right,
trained. They'll be using thousands of vehicles.
easy.
Well, it's operating in predominantly black areas, according to the article. If you look at the cities, those are pretty much black and brown areas. I would argue that they are actually aiming at black people as black people's needs, as well as employing other black people as well, while at the same time producing these vans and building up their service. So it's a win-win situation for everybody in the situation.
Mm. Now, I will say this: yes, it is a win-win situation, but you'd be surprised, and that's why this is why I agree with DE earlier on when he said people don't listen, because I've got into just transportation vehicles, and
Hmm.
the drivers are nasty attitudes. They don't want to be there.
Hmm.
So even though Ford is having this service, you would think that okay, this black people are like this is our opportunity to have some type of employment, but that attitude is horrible, man, horrible.
Hmm.
So yes, it's a win-win situation, but it's win-win that until people mess it up.
Hmm. All right, this next one is from CNN.com. Germany is opening its first electric highway for trucks. Trucks are guzzling ever more diesel, polluting towns and cities, and fueling climate change. Germany thinks it may have found the answer by using overhead lines to power big rigs. A system that allows trucks to draw electric power from overhead cables went into operation on 10 kilometers, 6.2 miles on of the autobahn on Tuesday. According to the German government, according to the German government, it's the first such test on a public road in Germany. Developed by Siemens, the system allows big rigs with special equipment mounted on their roofs to connect to electric lines while traveling at speeds of up to 90 miles per hour or 90 kilometers per hour, 56 miles per hour. The trucks run on electric motors when connected to the overhead lines, and a hybrid system when they return to traditional road. Sensors detect when the overhead wires are available. Siemens says its e-highway system combines the efficiency of electric rail with the flexibility of trucking. Another benefit is sharp reduction in emissions of CO2 and nitrogen oxides. That looks really cool. Siemens argues that the system can be integrated with existing road infrastructure, making it a practical way to reduce emissions and energy consumption in places where railways aren't feasible. The section of road open Tuesday is part of a crucial link between Frankfurt Airport and a global freight hub and a nearby industrial park. Two more stretches of highway with the system will open soon. The German government spent 70 million euros, $77 million, to develop trucks that can use the system. Siemens said the truck owner could save 20 million euros or 20,000 euros, $22,370 on fuel over 100,000 kilometers, 62,000 miles to be exact. The truck transportation is the world's fastest growing source of oil demand, according to the International Transport Forum, which is part of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. According to the group, road transportation of goods will account for 15% of the projected increase in CO2 emissions until 2050. This is really interesting stuff. Kind of makes me excited when I see things like that. Infrastructure is like a big key to any sort of development in society. This is uh, this is forward thinking.
Yeah, I agree with you. Whenever I listen to videos on YouTube that from people that are really into future and the things we talk about, they mention the same things we mention: infrastructure. You know, when the infrastructure is put in place, this will really take off. But I don't. It seems like people don't understand that it's the infrastructure that will allow these technologies that we're talking about to really flourish and for people to see the bigger picture of what we talk about. But I agree. Once the infrastructure is put into place, you say, wow, this really can work.
Hmm. I just want to answer a couple of questions in the chat. Um, Money Mike, that's a dope name. Do you think the do you think you do you think you children can, at the age of 10 and up, take or handle any of these courses? Not at that level. You can't really you can't dump complex problems into a child's brain like that. It just doesn't really work out very well. So they do have coding classes for kids, but it's done at a very rudimentary level. And it's good to start kids off at 6, 7 years old because um, their brain is like a sponge, so it just takes up information, and it only takes a couple of years for them to really figure it out. We covered an article about Singapore where they teach their kids coding at as soon as they start walking. So just to give you an indicator of where the thinking is for early childhood development. De, go ahead.
Oh, my thing is not about the question that is about the trucking. When you start reading that article, my mind just exploded with ideas of how they can do this. but like you said, the infrastructure. If you start building, if you say running between, I don't know, Boston and New York City, you got a dedicated lane just for trucks. The trucks turn off the fuel, the liquid fuel,
Mm-hmm.
get on that lane, and you got just trucks lined up together behind each other. They're going at the same speed. They never change speed. Nobody to cut them off or all of that.
Mm-hmm.
They never change speed. The efficiency of that trucking system is going to improve like crazy, man. I
Oh yeah.
mean, once you got the infrastructure, there's no holding that thing back at all.
Mm-hmm. All right. This next one is from Forbes.com. The reason renewables can't power modern civilization is because they were never meant to. Over the last decade, journalists have held up Germany's renewable energy transition as an environmental model for the world. Many poor countries, once intent on building coal fired power plants to bring electricity to their people, are discussing whether they might leapfrog the fossil age and build clean grids from the outset. Thanks to the energy one day. With Germany as inspiration, the United Nations and World Bank poured billions into renewables like wind, solar, and hydro in developing nations like Kenya. But then last year, Germany was forced to acknowledge that it had to delay its phase out of coal and would not meet its 2020 greenhouse gas reduction commitments. It announced plans to bulldoze an ancient church and forest in order to get at the coal underneath it. That's crazy. After renewables investors advocates, including Al Gore and Greenpeace, criticized Germany, journalists came to the country's defense. Germany has fallen short of its emissions target in part because its targets were so ambitious. One of them argued last summer, if the rest of the world made just half Germany's effort, the future for our planet would look less bleak, she wrote. So Germany, don't give up, and also thank you. But Germany didn't just fall short of its climate targets. Its emissions have flatlined since 2009. Now comes a major article in the country's largest news weekly magazine, Der Spiegel, a botched job in Germany. The magazine cover shows broken wind turbines and incomplete electrical transmission towers against a dark silhouette of Berlin. The biggest political project since reunification threatens to fail, right? Der Spiegel, Frank Doman, Alexander Jung, Stefan Schultz, Gerald Trafetta, in their 5,700 word investigative story. Over the past 5 years alone, the Energiewende has cost Germany 32 billion euros, $36 billion annually, and opposition to renewables is growing in the German countryside. The politicians fear uh, citizen resistance. Der Spiegel reports there is hardly a wind energy project that is not fought. In response, politicians sometimes order electrical lines be buried underground, but that is many times more expensive and takes years longer. As a result, the deployment of renewables and related transmission lines is slowing rapidly. Less than half as many wind turbines, 743, were installed in 2018 as were installed in 2017. Just 30 kilometers of new transmission were added in 2017. Solar and wind advocates say cheaper solar panels and wind turbines will make the future growth in renewables cheaper than the past growth, but there are reasons to believe the opposite will be the case. So basically, what they're saying is that all this investment that they're making into renewables isn't isn't having a high return on investment, and your common citizen is starting to push back against it, despite the fact that they probably know very little about it. My take on this is that if you have a if you have a population that is driving up demand for energy resources, then yeah, a renewable energy may not even be suitable for that. But if you have a continent like Africa, where two-thirds of it has not been developed, that actually serves as a better opportunity to actually im, implement renewable energy because you can't actually use toxic energy, legacy energies like coal fire and coal fire plants and things of that nature. You can't really use that and maintain the richness of your continent. A lot of those animals on the continent of Africa would die within a few generations because they're being introduced to smog that was never there before. So you're going to see a whole lot of rapid changes that would destroy your environment. For Germany, I think they have to take a step back and really rethink what their energy consumption needs are.
Yeah, I thought. Um, okay, this is my thought about this. Yes, renewable energy is something new. Then, all right, let me start off like this. People are looking at not nuclear. People are looking at renewable energies in the same vein of, hey, I don't think this is going to work because no one's going to drive a EV or an autonomous vehicle. Once the infrastructure is there, then you'll see the bigger picture, like I said on the previous article. To bring it over to this article, the renewable energies are still young, and you have many different type of renewable energies. Yes, right now they can't produce the type of energy that's needed to power major cities of multi-million people. So yes, people are going to talk bad about them because, like the article said, they don't know too much about them. But as iterations come where new technologies are being made, solar panels are being malleable to stick on light posts or things like that, different things will then chip away and cut down on the energy consumption of fossil fuels. And the daddy of it all, which is nuclear fusion, the same thing the sun is made out the same way the sun produces energy, and not only nuclear fusion, but capture the energy that more of the energy that hits the earth from the sun. Once we get to those levels, then there will be no need to burn fossil fuels because once we get to those levels and those manufacture renewable energies to the point where it's cheaper, then what's the point of burning coal when you can just stick something out the window and capture more than enough energy to power your whole house with all appliances on for the day? You understand what I'm saying? So right now, yes, the renewable energy is not meeting the demand of energy right now, but as each iteration comes out, then the story will change.
DE, you have anything you want to add to this?
Well, I see. Yes, what you guys said is correct, but I see a little different. I see looking at it from a different point of view is that what you have in Germany is they're trying to build. Well, it's happened throughout the Western world. You're trying to build, say, a solar cell based or window based or wind based power generation system. You got to go to somebody to build that system. Either it be solar cells or controllers or even the windmills. And these people are building substandard generation systems that fail because they're the people who also got a hand in the fuel, the current fuel system that we have. You know, the materials that are making the windmill blades are made from oil. You know, carbon fibers to make the blades with. You know, the guy who makes the carbon fiber is going to try to get as much money as he can. So your machine, your windmill is going to cost you exorbitant amount of money. It's going to fail, and you got to come back constantly to him for him to remanufacture windmills. So the cost of your um, ecosystem is going to be really high, and that's what Germany seems like Germany is facing. Part of the problem Germany is facing. That happened here in the U.S. too, where they were trying to get people to invest in solar cells, and the solar cells manufactured in the U.S. were exorbitant. Then the Chinese came in the market, and the price dropped. But guess what? Who's importing the solar cells? They buy it from the Chinese at $2, and they sell it to you at $30. So that's one of the big problems that we face is that until we are forced into the position, like I said, where everybody is doing it, then people are going to say, what benefit am I getting? You're not getting any benefit.
All right, this next one is from Futurism.com. Google backs plan to use CRISPR to cure heart disease. A biotech startup has a bold plan to use CRISPR to end heart disease, and one of the world's biggest tech companies is ready to help bring it to fruition. Verve Therapeutics came out of stealth mode on Tuesday with the announcement that it had raised 58.5 million in financing, the majority of which came from GV, formerly Google Ventures, the venture capital arm of Google's parent company Alphabet. Verve has broad potential to address the number one leading cause of death in the world, unlike anything we've seen before. GV general partner Krishna Yeshwant said in the news release. Researchers already know that genetics play a major role in determining a person's risk of developing heart disease or having a heart attack. Verve's plan is to use CRISPR to edit the genes of adults with high genetic risk of heart problems so that they more closely resemble the genes of people with naturally low risk. Poor adherence, cost, side effects, limited access, all these challenges have limited the impact existing heart medication like cholesterol lowering stains or statins have had. Verve's newly announced future CEO told Reuters, "With our therapy, we could change the treatment paradigm for heart disease from chronic care, daily pills, or monthly injections to one and done approach." Interesting. Anybody have anything you want to say about this?
Yeah. We don't know the side effects of doing a lot of this stuff. Gene altering. I understand there are some benefits, and the benefits do and can outweigh the current situation. Um,
Hmm.
my thing is just doing it on a grand scale, doing it on a major scale. We have to have say, okay, we're going to do it for these sicknesses and see where we can go over here, where we can do an outcome. Because just like the sciences that's in China, where he did, where the twins are now immune to AIDS, you have the side effect. So this
What,
needs to be.
what's the side effect of the twins?
There's a few side effects. I can't remember. I can't even remember one. But they're more susceptible to something. I keep wanting to say AIDS, but that's the thing that they're immune to now. But it's not coming to my head.
All right.
Yeah,
All right.
it's gonna bug me. I gotta look this up.
All right, let me get to this next article. This next one is from Gizmodo.com. What if the asteroid never killed the dinosaurs? An asteroid slammed down and did away with all the dinosaurs, paving the way for such developments as the human race, capitalism, and posting on the internet. Sounds like the manosphere. It's the story we all know and love. Yet, if things had shaken out differently, if the asteroid had stayed in its place and the dinosaurs allowed to proceed with their business, what would things have looked like? Would the Earth be a pristine, unsmog paradise, or would the dinosaurs have somehow evolved into even more rapacious profiteers and industrialists wrecking the world with their dinosaur refineries and dinosaur dark money? The latter scenario being totally implausible, what's a likely answer to the question of what our world would look like if the asteroid never hit? To find out for this week, Giz asks, we reach out to a number of geologists, paleontologists, and evolutionary biologists. All right, this first one is from Thomas Richard Holtz. Assuming the asteroid misses Earth and all the other physical changes that happen later in the uh, Cenozoic happened as they do in real timeline. Here's what I think might happen. In our world, only the toothless group of birds survive among the dinosaurs. Remember, all birds are dinosaurs, not all dinosaurs are birds. In this case, all the dinosaurs, tooth birds, Tyrannosaurus, horned dinosaurs, duckbills, club-tailed, et cetera, et cetera, that were around at 66 million years ago, around 65 million years ago. What? That doesn't mean that all these groups of dinosaurs are still around at 0 million years ago. After all, plenty of groups of mammals that are that arose in the early Cenozoic have long since vanished in the real world. And this is important. Zero, zilch, nada, nits, no, etc. species of dinosaur that live in the real world will be present by the alternate now. I'm not going to read all this because I hate the way how these nerd extremes really talk. It really annoys the crap out of me. Just get straight to the point. But my take on this is that if if the asteroid never hit and those dinosaurs would still be around, eventually they would have ran out of food because they would have consumed all of their resources since they don't seem to replenish any of their resources at all, and at least not to their own, not of their own bearing. They would eventually have eaten themselves alive. At least that's just my initial thoughts.
Oh, my bad. My mic on. I'm gonna pass on this one. I'm trying to look up this CRISPR thing.
All right, this next one is from physics.org. New water cycle on Mars discovered. Approximately every 2 Earth years, when it is summer on the southern hemisphere of Mars, a window opens. Only in this season can water vapor efficiently rise from the lower into the upper Martian atmosphere. There, winds carry the rare gas to the North Pole, while part of the water vapor decays and escapes into space. The rest sinks down into near the poles. Researchers from the Moscow Institute of Physics and Technology and the Max Planck Institute for Solar System Research in Germany described the unusual Martian water cycle in a current issue of the Geophysical Research Letters. Their computer simulations show how water vapor overcomes the barrier of cold air in the middle of the atmosphere of Mars and reaches higher atmospheric layers. This could explain why Mars, unlike Earth, has lost most of its water. Interesting. Billions of years ago, Mars was a planet rich in water with rivers and even an ocean. Since then, our neighboring planet has changed dramatically. Today, only small amounts of frozen water exist in the ground. In the atmosphere, water vapors occurs only in traces. All in all, the planet may have lost at least 80% of its original water. In the upper atmosphere of Mars, ultraviolet radiation from the sun split water molecules into hydrogen and hydroxyl radicals. The hydrogen escaped from their and irreparably into space. Measurements by space probes and space telescopes show that even today, water is still lost in this way. But how is this possible? The middle atmosphere layer of Mars, like Earth's uh, tropopause, should actually stop the rising gas. After all, this region is usually so cold that water vapor would turn into ice. So how does the Martian water vapor reach the upper air layers? In the current simulation, the Russian and German researchers find a previously unknown mechanism reminiscent of a kind of pump. Their model comprehensively describes the flows in the entire gas envelope surrounding Mars from the surface to an altitude of 160 kilometers. The calculations show that the normally ice cold middle atmosphere becomes permeable to water vapor twice a day, but only at a certain location and at a certain time of the year. I'm not going to read all of this because I think if Mars had some form of water on there, lakes and oceans and rivers and things like that, um, there had to have been some kind of life on there. My thing is, where the hell are all the fossils?
Um, the solar radiation could have, well, okay, for one, it's extremely hard to find fossils here on Earth. It's extremely hard. Then you add the weak Mars atmosphere and solar radiation bombarding it, then that makes it even harder. And then on top of that, we don't know how long ago this has been going on. So that's not to say that there's not any fossil remnants or anything there. Some rovers may have found something, but it's hard to find a intact fossil. There's never been a dinosaur intact. I think, well, it's extremely rare to find an intact dinosaur fossil here on Earth. And I forget where I was going with that, but yeah, to find fossils is very hard. So, but to know that the water vapor is evaporating means to me that Mars can't be terraformed. Um, the core needs to be the solid iron core that is going counter to my understanding, again, to my understanding, going the hard iron core that's going counterclockwise to the liquid metal creates the um magnetic uh, come on, don't lose your words tonight right now. Creates the magnetic shield that stops the sun's solar rays from stripping away the atmosphere. Once that happens, then water can be tamed, the atmosphere can be tamed because Mars, even though Mars is in the Goldilocks zone, they're in the outer parts of the Goldilocks zone, so they really need that magnetic protection. But since they don't have that magnetic protection, the like the article said, like the article said, the dust storms have been taken. I think I'm confusing this with another article, but the dust storms have been taking the water molecules up higher into space, like 50 miles, where the solar radiation can strip the water molecules and strip them from hydrogen, from what they are to hydrogen and oxygen, and it is vaporizing in space. But that's been going on for so long that Mars it is what it is now. But to me, like I said, that could be reversed. Since that process is going on, it can be reversed. Hello, hello. Hey, Mike. I think you on mute. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You on mute.
All right, this next one is from thinkprogress.org. The solar industry is booming, but most of the rewards only go to white men. Data shows that 80% of the senior employees are male and nearly 90% are white. The solar industry is booming, but according to a report, the industry is overwhelmingly white and male, highlighting the diversity problems plaguing the field. Renewable energies are typically lauded as a source of economic growth and environmental justice under climate proposals like Green New Deal, but advocates worry about the emerging disparities. The report published Monday comes as black workers at one solar power company say they've faced racism on the job. According to the 2019 U.S. Solar Industry Diversity Study, a survey of almost 800 solar employees, or employers and workers, senior tier employees in the field are 80% male and 88% white. Conducted by the Solar Foundation and the Solar Industries Association, the study reflects improvements in how companies track employee demographics, but it also shows jarring trends in the industry that is rapidly expanding. Median wages for men in the industry, in the solar industry, are $29.19 per hour, while for women they rest at $21.62 an hour. Only 37% of the women feel they are successfully moving up the career ladder, compared to 52% of their male peers. And for people of color, referrals are challenged, with only 28% of Latin and black employees finding their jobs through word of mouth. For their white counterparts, that number is 44%. Nearly three-quarters of those surveyed praised their work environment and a more positive finding for the industry. But the study also notes that only 36% of the companies track employee demographics and diversity, posing a challenge for data collecting. Organizations committed to equity within the renewable energy sector expressed some dismay at the numbers. I am so thankful for the solar industry's ongoing commitment to to make the kind of progress we need to see and to take full advantage of the opportunities and economic potential, said Kristen Graff, Executive Director of Women of Renewable Industries. CIA and the Solar Foundation also acknowledged the discrepancies posed by the data and announced a diversity and inclusion best practices guide meant to help the industry address the problem. I felt it was important to make this a public issue, to challenge others to stand up and account for the work they are doing. Problems connected to diversity deficits, as identified by the report, are already playing out within the industry. Six black men previously employed by the New Jersey-based Momentum Solar recently filed a suit over allegations of racism, including pay discrepancies and repeated slurs. Damn. Filed in Brooklyn, New York, the suit seeks class action status and highlights the treatment of men while working at Momentum Solar's warehouse in Plainview, New York. The complaint accuses the company of fostering a work environment permeated with vile racism, and the men say they endured repeated comments from the supervisors and other staff, with at least one saying he was called the N-word by coworkers. Doesn't surprise me. The men also claimed they were paid less than their white counterparts. That includes an alleged instance where a black employee and plaintiff, Tevin Brown, says he was paid $15 an hour without a raise, while a white coworker with no experience was paid $22 an hour. Doesn't shock me at all. The plaintiffs also say they face retaliation when they complain, enduring threats from managers. At least one man, Gareth Morrell, alleges that he was fired via text message after complaining to an executive above his supervisor. Momentum Solar argues that the men were terminated for legitimate non discriminatory reasons, including unacceptable workplace behavior, fighting, poor performance, failure to show up for work, and violations of material company policies and procedures. The company has said it will defend itself against the allegations. The solar industry has faced similar problems before. Last year, a black man formerly employed by Utah based uh, Vivint Solar sued the company over what he said was a racist work environment. Such instances pose a challenge for a sector that environmental advocates have touted as a job creator. The Green New Deal resolution introduced in February by AOC and Senator Ed Markey argues that massively investing in renewable energy would create new jobs across the country and a major boon to the economy. That proposal has been touted as an environmental justice mechanism that would center frontline communities, prioritizing both former fossil fuel workers and the people exposed to pollution and other toxins, typically people of color and low income people. With many states adopting legislation that pushes for clean energy while creating jobs, diversity issues within the field like solar are likely to remain a point of concern. In at least one state, Illinois, advocates hope for a proposed bill. The Clean Energy Jobs Act will help further expand the industry and make it more diverse. And the proposed legislation aims to um, uh, complement the 2016 Future Energy Jobs Act. Under the Clean Energy Jobs Act, people of color and other marginalized groups would be trained and recruited for jobs within the wind and solar sectors. And with climate change increasingly being viewed as a pressing issue for Americans, figures within the industry say they are working to address the emerging inequities. There are many exciting job opportunities in America's growing solar industry, and these jobs should be accessible to all. Andrea Buki, executive director of the Solar Foundation, said in a statement Monday, given the importance of the solar industry and building the energy infrastructure that is needed to confront the challenge of climate change, the solar industry has tremendous opportunity to serve as a diversity and inclusion workforce model for the wider economy. I wish Dollar Will was here. He can kind of speak to this. You gentlemen have anything you want to add to this?
Yeah. Wow. It seems like that black people are in these industries, but they get fired, and then the media that be turn around and say, well, black people are not in it, are not in these fields. Well, it's because you fired them all, or you marginalize them, or you prevent them from getting positions.
Hmm.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, here's my take on this because this transcends all tech industries, including renewable energies. White people, especially white men, this has more to do with white men than it does have to do with white women. Because we need to understand that racism and white supremacy is a masculine enterprise, meaning that white men are the biggest participants in this and stand to gain the most from it. Um, so a lot of these interactions that you're seeing on these jobs and these sort of anecdotal experiences that people are having is really white men pushing this agenda. Now, what happens in these situations is that these guys really don't own the company; they just work there, and they bring in this sort of toxic energy into work, and try to project it onto everyone that doesn't look like them in the environment, completely violating all of the company's policies, and then pretending that they didn't do anything wrong. Now, I find it interesting that the company wants to sue, or will basically said that it will defend itself against the black man who wants to sue the company. Well, why is the company going to war over these allegations about workplace harassment? You never hear about this with Me Too. You never hear about women who are accused of accuse a company or the employee of a company of sexual harassment. You never hear the company say we're going to countersue or we're going to defend ourselves against these allegations. They don't talk like that. So this is a full stop agenda to kind of project um, this white ideology extremism into the workplace, and then pretend that if you don't like your job that you should leave. Well, it's not so much that you should leave, but these people are protected under the law. You can't tell me that you're a private corporation and that you're publicly traded, that somehow, some way, um, you're not obligated to with upholding the policies of the United States of America that protect this person. You're telling me that this person is expendable, despite all of the policies that are in place, from the 1960s. Like, how can you even? How are you even going to win this in court? It doesn't make any sense. But see, when it comes to sexual harassment, women are allowed to get. You don't even have to know your accuser. A woman can say, a man looked at another coworker, and that made her feel uncomfortable, or it made this person feel uncomfortable, even if they're not the victim. And the man on the receipt on the end, who's considered to be the victimizer, he doesn't even know who accused him of what. It's just the fact that he has been accused, and therefore, he has no recourse here. But when it's about racism, all of a sudden now, they have documents here. It's a whole big circus. So basically, what I'm saying is there is a massive agenda in these incidents about racism to kind of hurt people, hurt black men in these environments. I very rarely do you hear about black women going through this, but when it comes to black men, it seems to be very aggressive actions taken against black men. So that's why I say that racism is a masculine enterprise. It's a business where uh, white men feel that this is their way of life, and that damn all the policies, damn civil rights movement, damn all of the legislation that's been put in place to protect black men from this shit. They feel that they're going to do this anyways, and it doesn't matter what a piece of paper says about them. And if you take them to court, then they'll retaliate against you. This is warfare. This is literally warfare.
Wow, I didn't know that it was to that extent.
Oh, it's absolute warfare in the office, or in these organizations. Um, and it's also a sexual war too. Because if you look good as a black man, if you're a what they call a jawline cat, um, and you're the preferred sexual object in the office by other women, those men will become very violent towards you. They'll do anything possible to sabotage your daily BAU, which is business as usual. Um, they won't CC you on emails. They'll talk behind your back. They'll throw you under the bus. I've seen guys have their tires slashed, their toilet paper wrapped around their car. There's all types of ridiculous stuff that shouldn't happen in the last, since Obama come into office. Obama has came into office and has left. This stuff is still going on. So a lot of these white men don't care about the law. They don't care about the Constitution, even though they claim to be constitutionalists. They're all about the Second Amendment, and that's the only amendment they care about in the Constitution. Every other amendment they can care less about. Yeah, Joe Black says it's about political power. It is about political power, But it's also about organizing. So organizing has allowed white men to have this sort of political power in the office. But if you're IBM and you're the CEO of IBM and this type of stuff is going on in your organization, it's incumbent upon you, to nip this stuff in the bud now. What's happening is that HR is looking out for these white men, um, for a variety of reasons, but the main reason is because they don't want to rock the boat either. And a lot of these white men have, like you said, Joe, is political power. So it's
Mm.
extremely political in the office. There was a case in Connecticut, um, with Omar Thornton. This was a few years ago. This brother was being harassed on the job by these white men, being spat on and stuff like that. He went to HR 2 or 3 times. HR didn't do anything about it. Came back to work with a pistol, and he took all them cats out. He took himself out in the end. The video's on YouTube. I think YouTube might have taken it down now, but at the time, this was live streamed up to YouTube. So we see these sort of actions still playing out in the workplace, and it doesn't seem like white men really care about any sort of documentation or legislation, things of that nature. The only real way to fix these sort of problems is to disarm white men from having that sort of organizing in the workplace. Um, and the way you do that is by making it so diverse that white men really have no place else to go. Because racism is a group dynamic. One white person can't just do all of this on his own. It requires many other white people to participate in this in order for it to be effective. And if other white people are not there for him to latch onto, then two things happen: fight or flight. Either he's going to stand his ground and try to pump his chest out, so to speak, in the workplace, or he's going to leave and go find somewhere else to go where he can exercise these ideas.
Mm. Okay.
DE, you have anything you want to add to this?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if you're talking about your muted D. Mm, guess not.
Yeah, Raining Woman in the chat asks, "Are you serious, Mike V?" I'm dead serious, dead ass serious. Sexual jealousy by white men in the workplace is very real, very real. I mean, I get harassed for the way how I dress in my avatar at work. So you can imagine if I'm really dipped to the nines, I'm in there killing it, and that makes them really tight, man. They get really tight about black men who are more attractive than they are,
Mm,
especially because their women want black men. They prefer black men. If given the option, if given the choice between black men and white men in the office, they prefer black men, and that's what's making them really mad. Hit this last article. All right, this last one is from FastCompany.com. Artificial intelligence can now predict a woman will get breast cancer. Researchers from MIT's Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory, CASEL, and Massachusetts General Hospital, MGH, have created a deep learning model that can predict if a woman will get breast cancer in the future based on mammograms she has done today. The researchers trained the AI by having it review mammograms and the known outcomes from more than 60,000 patients treated at MGH. The AI was then able to learn to identify the subtle patterns in breast tissue that are precursors to cancer. All in all, the AI could accurately predict about 31% of all cancer patients in a high risk category. 31% might not sound like much, but the AI performs significantly better than traditional ways of predicting breast cancer risk, which only identify about 18% of all cancer patients in a high risk category. What's even better is MIT's AI modeling will work just as well for black women as it does for white women. Previous techniques were better at detecting signs of breast cancer in white women than they could in African American populations because those modeling techniques were based on a population of white women. MIT's new artificial intelligence, on the other hand, was trained on the data from women of both populations. This is good news. Anybody have any comments on this?
My bad. My mic was muted. Yeah, I just saw this is good news, good information. I saw Google I/O um, presentation, and they were talking about how they AI detected early stage cancer. So this is good information. And as everyone knows, the earlier you catch it, the higher the probability of your survival. So this is good information. Imagine going to your yearly checkup or so and getting this done, like a full body scan, and you just catching things before they have time to grow or fester. So this is really good information.
DE, you have anything you want to add to this? I think DE has stepped away. We'll spend another 10 minutes and kind of just go through some open mic, answer some questions in the chat or some comments.
Yeah, I think people really like your breakdown of the corporate office culture.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we can do in this regard is we need to network more. One of the biggest problems, like with this brother Omar Thornton in Connecticut, he did not have any recourse. There was no way for him to actually talk to anybody, so he had to take it to another level. And unfortunately, he had to take both he and those other people out. That was the only way he knew how to resolve it. And that's not the first time. You had the incident in D.C. at the D.C. Naval Yard shooting, um, and that brother went to HR twice about being harassed by white men in the workplace, and HR did nothing about it. He came back to the Navy Yard and popped that whole place up. So um, we see the same thing with the Virginia shooting, with that brother who was at the news station, and he was being harassed in the workplace, called him a faggot, called him all types of bitch ass and all this other type of stuff, just completely dehumanized him, and he came back and shot the place up live while it was doing the live broadcast. And then they made him out to be a bad person. But in all of these cases, what you see is an unwillingness by human resources to actually protect the people that should be protected, the victim. In this case, it should be black men. But when it comes to women in the workplace and sexual harassment, even if it's not true, you can be terminated without any real substantial evidence being presented. So somebody can just accuse you of anything. And in this case, it's usually some man, and he has no idea what's going on. You could have brushed somebody in the elevator by accident. They're now starting to say, looking at a woman for more than 5 seconds in the workplace is considered sexual harassment now. So
That's crazy. What?
yeah, that passed in January. So what I'm saying here is that actually Judge Joe Brown has an excellent breakdown of all of this on YouTube. A few months ago, he talked about this, how far they're willing to go with this. Um, what I'm saying here is that when it comes to racism, it's a whole different, it's a different animal. And for whatever reason, white men feel that this is their God-given right to go around and terrorize people in the workplace. Somebody in the chat said microaggressions. The microaggressions is nothing more than microterrorism because it has a political component to it. You're mistreating this person um, because of their ethnicity or because of their class. It has nothing to do with what they actually did in hindsight. Um, just because they walk through the door, you're butching up against them. You know, you're talking down to them. You know, just all types of foolishness that should not actually happen to an American is actually happening. And then they point, at the Muslims or someone who practices Islam, and they say, well, he could be a potential terrorist. In Boston, there was a case a few years ago where you had a couple of Muslims who were praying on the platform. So they rolled out their blanket and kind of they prayed. SWAT team was called in within seconds. They came in, guns drawn, didn't ask any questions. They were going to kill these guys, all because they were praying. And the way white men view society is as if it's their own, even if they're not in power, right? These guys in the office are not really in any real power of the company. It's not like, they're C-level executives and they determine the outlook of the company, um, and that somehow, some way, if they leave, that the company will fall apart and they'll lose direction. No, these guys are just, cogs in the wheel. They really don't have any power in the workplace outside of who they know, rather than what they can do. So a lot of the times, these guys are powerless white males, and they're looking for some form of power. They're borderline incels. Um, they usually marry, but they don't have this great luxurious life that white picket fence and a in a two-car garage. They don't really live like that. A lot of these white men come to work. They're grinding their teeth. They've been sitting in traffic all day, listening to Rush Limbaugh, probably listening to Alex Jones, and they come into the workplace and they see some person of color, usually a black male or some form of Indian person, and they take out their aggressions on them. And they probably had a fight with their wife at home. Their wife is probably banging some guy out. Just a whole litany of things. What I'm saying is they take out their aggressions on on black men, and think that black men should have no recourse for any of these things. And if black men go to HR, they threaten to retaliate against them. Um, it's a big mess. It's a huge mess.
Wow, that runs deep. That's a great breakdown right there.
hmm It's a huge mess, man. It is because a lot of black men don't talk to other black men. I think you should find other black people in the industry or in the workplace and actually pull them to the side. But what happens with, um, in my experience, is that black women are very apprehensive about having these conversations because they don't want to mess up their opportunities,
You know, I
right?
was gonna I was gonna ask you something. I'm kind of hesitant to ask you something
hmm
from things I heard. Um, but before I comment on that,
hmm
it's good that people are gonna communicate with people who look like them. And when you see in the workplace Indian people,
hmm
people from India,
hmm
they communicate with people that look like them, or Asian people. They communicate with people that look like them.
Not
So,
necessarily, because
explain.
because they speak a language, right? Indians speak a certain dialect that you and I just can't understand. Even though they speak English, there's a certain dialect that is very proprietary to their interactions with each other. White people just speak English. They really don't have any sort of, there is no real cultural identity because what kind of culture do white people really have
Well,
outside
this
of
one,
racism?
well, this one I'm talking about. There, that
Hmm.
speak to people that it's in their own culture.
Hmm.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about when I say look like them.
Hmm.
So, but when you see that, they go to lunch together, things together. They go to each other's house, things of that nature. But when you see that, it it blends into the background. You don't think nothing of it. But when black men do that, it's like, oh, okay, what's going on over there?
Exactly, exactly, exactly. I know what you're talking about because they want to know what you're talking about. The first thing they want to ask me is about basketball or some other bullshit that
Right.
they think I'm down with. Did you download that latest Drake mixtape? I'm like, I don't listen to Drake, nigga. What makes you think I listen to this dumbass nigga?
But what I wanted to, uh,
Hmm.
I've heard from men that they get a lot of same thing you're talking about. The aggressions,
Who is this?
the supremacy. In passing, I hear it in passing. I can't really pinpoint the numerous places I hear it from, but they say they get a lot of that from black women.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's the some that are in their corner, but they're a few, and a lot of in the office
Hmm.
that they get this. Oh, you're not gonna get that butter biscuit before me. And it's not even that they're not on it. They're like, I like my job. I just want to come here and work, but they get a lot of. I can't. I, I can't put it their way because I haven't experienced it myself. But
Hmm.
they say they get a lot of pushback from black women as if they're trying to sabotage them. I guess.
Because there's a tokenism effect here. And what some black women go through, not all, but some black women go through, is they think that if I throw you under the bus, nigga, then I can get that next, director's role or that upper management role, and I don't have to fight with it for you, fight with you over that same role. They think that the role is limited to just them and you, and that you're their biggest hurdle. So they're willing to work and conspire with other white men to undermine you. I think Tyler Perry did a whole movie about this. I think it was like the Family That Prays or something like that. Um, it's a power thing for them. For them, it's a power thing. So they're power tripping in the office, and they don't think that, or they perceive black men as being a threat to their opportunities. So they want to make sure they get rid of you as much as possible. So they'll sabotage you just as quickly as a white male would, because for
Right.
them, this is a political agenda for them. And unfortunately, you know, I know quite a few brothers who have been either suspended or denied opportunities because some of these sisters work with white men. I've seen. I won't go into it on here because I have a special hangout come in for that about these workplace politics on cultural intelligence. But
Right.
what I'm trying to say here is that you do have a lot of black women who do conspire with white men to undermine black men in the workplace. I've seen numerous cases of spreading rumors about brothers being gay and all this other crazy stuff to try to ruin his reputation in the workplace. Even if it's not true, they just go around and do it anyways, right? It's crazy, man.
Um, then they're not held accountable for their for their irresponsibility.
Hmm.
And I hear it so often. I start to you know when you get nose deaf, I get ear deaf to it because I hear
Tone
it so
deaf.
often. Huh?
Tone deaf.
right. Tone, yeah, exactly. Tone deaf. 'Cause I hear it so often because
Mhm.
when I hear it's okay, because I'm same old story again. But it's like, wow, you again, not all, but it's the majority that is making
Mhm.
the entire seem like that. It's like, wow, you all are really doing that.
Well, it's no different in the manosphere. You could look at the politics of the manosphere, and you can see the same type of behavior going on with white men and black women. Um, the first wave of the manosphere was taken down by black women and white men conspiring to make sure to silence black men, to put a a form of censorship to control black men and keep them in their place where you can't speak out, you can't say anything. A gag order. That's what we called it, a gag order. Uh, Star says, um, also what I've noticed is the lack of masculine black men in certain workplaces. They will hire the most effeminate black men. That is not a coincidence, in my opinion. The reason why you see things like that is because those black males that you consider that will be considered to be more effeminate is because they're very good at what they do. And a lot of times they play the game in order to get ahead. So a lot of times they just that's just a persona for the workplace, and then after that they just go do whatever they need to do after work. Um, I'll tell this story because I don't want to spend too much time on it. But quick background: I met a brother who's like 6'9", 6'10", diesel, very strong. Um, higher up brother. He was involved in digital marketing. He led the digital marketing team at one of the companies I had joined, one of the organizations I had joined. He was a volunteer police officer, little league. Um, he was athletic, but he was gay, and he was the spook that sat by the door. He was the guy that can actually pull strings and get things done. And because of his stature, you were least likely to try to attempt anything on him. Um, so those type of guys, we have to make sure that we keep networking regardless of what you think about them. We have to keep networking. My experience with working with this brother, man, he's always like, Mike, if you need anything, let me know. Anybody mess with you, let me know. We'll straighten that out. I say all that to say that we shouldn't always discount some of those black men that you would consider to be effeminate. Shouldn't always discount those cats. Let me read some of the other comments. Star says, for the most part, we as black people stay to ourselves, fearful of having white folks in the office thinking we're banding together or isolating ourselves. Also, we fear someone advancing above us. I wouldn't necessarily say that we fear someone advancing above us, because it could depend on which department you're in. Most black people don't work in the same department, anyways. It's just a matter of the political structure in the organization. For some people, especially black women, they want to be tokenized, so they want to be in that position of higher stature, because their intolerance of black men is not that much different than white men. So they take on a lot of um, microaggressions of white men and internalize it for themselves against black men. So with that being said, I haven't experienced any black men trying to knock me down in the workplace. Uh, what I will say is that I've seen a lot of black women knock brothers down, though, just as quickly as white men do, even if it's not necessary to do it. They just do it anyways. And the difference here is that for men, male aggression or microaggressions lead to macroaggressions, meaning somebody might get knocked out up in this piece. And for women, it's a little bit different. Um, you're not going to get into a physical confrontation with a woman, so you have to go about things a little bit more measured and calculated.
Wow.
Yeah, Jedi Focus says in call centers and HR departments, black women are in clusters. Yep, that's true. I heard Edward Anderson talk extensively about that. Um,
It's like a click.
it's a pride, just like a lion. A lion is pride. Star says no, I don't discount our brothers in the workplace. What I notice is that they are hired to make these white people feel comfortable. There's a fear of black masculinity. That's very true, and it's not so much about coming off like a pookie or anything like that. It's just like I said, just what you see in my avatar is intimidating enough for them. So just your presence alone is what seems to trigger them a lot. And no matter how much you try to reach out and connect, they seem to really swat your hand down. It's kind of hard to shake someone's hand with a closed fist. So literal warfare in the office.
Mm.
Let's see what else they're saying here. Yeah, Reigning Woman says they have a culture of stealing other people, their cultures, women, and ideas. This is true. You're definitely right on the money with that, Reigning Woman. Um, the frustrating part is that they're always so pro-American, right? The American flag, make America great again. Um, just a variety of things that they perceive as American culture. Um, but they don't perceive equality as being part of American culture, right? I think the founding fathers, or their founding fathers, for that matter, says that freedom, justice, and equality. For whatever reason, they don't believe in that part. They leave that part out.
Mm.
Leave that part out. And this is why I said before, that I was saying a few minutes ago, is that black men have to start networking in these environments. They have to start reaching out. You have to be the bigger person to when you see a brother on the floor or in some of these workplaces, man. Get his LinkedIn. Exchange those contacts with him. Add him to your LinkedIn profile. If you don't have a LinkedIn profile, you should actually create one. It's actually beneficial for you connecting with these people, because you don't want to be in an environment where you don't have
And the allies.
yeah, some form of ally, some form of alliance that you can build with people. I have Indian allies who look out for me all the time. I just met an African brother today, who's Italian African. Very interesting mix and backstory on him. But he's very thorough cat, man. Yeah, Christian says not many of us have LinkedIn profiles. This is true. This is very true.
Christian, man, Christian like that LinkedIn profile. Oh boy, I take that much.
Oh yeah, he's always on there, right? But that's a part of that's a part of the thing is being active, right? Being active and communicating with other people, connecting with other people. Um, you need job references. You need in order to have this sort of social mobility, you got to be connected. And a lot of these guys are not connected to anybody. And when I say guys, I mean black men. They're not connected to anybody. And what happens here is when the wolves come, you're by yourself.
Mm,
You're screwed, man. And you may end up balling up your fist and going up somebody's head and find yourself in a jail cell somewhere and out of an industry that you probably had made some traction in. Marcus says, problem is brothers always think that other brothers want a handout. Do you want a handout, Lionel?
nah, I want some information.
No, and I think that's a misconception. I think in that regard, they think that brothers want a handout. Really, brothers want a hand up. So that's a part of the confusion. Yeah, this is a big part of the confusion. But I definitely want to go in deeper on some of this stuff because it's very important that we have these discussions because you think equality is out there. It's not really out there like that. You really got to be head and shoulders above everybody that you're competing with um, for some of these opportunities because no one's looking out for your best interest. Only you can look out for your own best interest. So,
Yeah.
what? Um, Ronan Black says the founding fathers truly believed it either. They were sociopaths. This nation was founded by sociopaths, and the behavior has been passed on through the decades. And black folks need to understand that. This is very true, Ronan. That's a very good point.
More like psychopaths.
I think that in order to be a racist, in order to practice racism, you have to have some level of narcissism. Like you have to be on the edge of narcissism and at the cusp of sociopath.
I think a sociopath, correct me if I'm wrong, is a person that got their way through society. And a psychopath is a person that was born that way.
Yeah, but what I'm saying here is that
I see what you're trying to
John Bolton, right, Madeline Albright, those are psychopaths, right? Sociopath would be, like these guys I mentioned in the article. They come to work and they practice the game that they want to play, right? They see racism as part and parcel to their existence in this country.
Mm,
Madeline Albright, for those y'all listening in the chat, she said that 500,000 dead Iraqi babies was worth the price that was paid. So she was willing to kill that many children to get the oil out of the Middle East. I mean, she's on record talking about this. It's on YouTube. I wish Nabone was here. He could probably speak more to this, man, because this is something that definitely needs to be talked about ad nauseum in that length.
mm.
Marcus 376, you might want to talk to Lionel about those online classes, what kind of laptop he uses.
No, excuse me, well, for the online classes I'm taking, the coding, the most they have you do is download a code editor. you're going to use the command line prompt that's already on your computer, and you're going to use a code editor, and they let you know which ones to use. You have a choice of which ones to use, but that's the no video rendering, any high compute intensive going on.
Mhm. I think once you get into machine learning, that might be a little bit different, right?
Yeah.
But for the most part, you use what, a Surface Book or Surface tablet?
Surface, Surface, not Pro, but laptop, Surface laptop. Yeah.
Mhm. How much memory are you running in there?
Well, I like to spec things out, so I don't think my barometer would be. But I spec'd it out. I got the 16 gig memory.
Show off.
Yeah, I like to future proof a little bit. Have it longer because I tend to keep stuff longer.
Mhm.
Like my last computer I had for 7 years, and the one before that was about the same amount of time. So I don't get it. Yeah,
Okay, so by the time you upgrade this one, you have a new president.
right, right.
Keep it techie says you got to watch your back in corporate America, corporate environments. You have to learn to read people to find out who has your back. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And again, we don't build fraternities amongst black men. You don't have to unionize, but you do have to build a camaraderie where you can actually hit somebody up on a text message or be like, let's go for a walk outside. Let's go have a cigarette, even though we don't smoke cigarettes, right? So you got to be able to have that sort of outlet. At least one person.
Hmm.
At least one person. You don't want to be one of these black men or black women. I should refer that I can refer to that's who suffers from alcoholism because she doesn't know how to deal with discrimination on the job herself.
And women can't take the pressure.
Hmm.
So when there's pressure, they're going to more than likely side with the one. They're going to have the Stockholm syndrome and side with the one that's applying the pressure. They say,
Hmm.
okay, 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 I do what you want to do. Well, I'll do what you ask, and then they're going to go against you. So it's a bad situation, man.
Hmm. 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 Yeah, I've seen them. Like I said, I've seen how they treat brothers in the office. Man, they basically throw brothers under the bus.
Yep. Just so they
Right.
can't, just so they can avoid that pressure. They'll serve you up.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think it has a lot to do with perceived um, perceive what was I gonna say?
Power.
No, perceived privilege. There's this imaginary space that if I throw Lionel under the bus, this is going to advance me further in the manosphere. No,
Mm.
that doesn't work like that. If I flag this guy's channel down, this is going to get me more subscribers. They really believe in this type of stuff, and it's a fool's errand for them to go out there and do something like that because when the chips are down, when the layoffs come, that ain't a bullet ain't got no name on it, so to
Nah.
speak. So so if you gotta go, you gotta go too. You're not gonna be spared.
And at that point,
Hmm.
you done put tire marks all on my back. Throw me in like, golly, man. I thought we were comrades in this. Nope.
Hmm.
Black man, you are alone in terms of you I agree, keep it tech. You really gotta know how to read people to say, okay, is this guy just saying, yeah, we cool, and then going behind my back and offer me up as a pawn to advance himself. That what they call it? That man is something.
Man of tomorrow.
No, it's manumission.
Yeah.
Merits is manumission. What slaves would say. They trying to break out. They creating what they trying to plan a revolt so they can have some brownie points with the owner. Meritorious manumission.
Hmm. Hmm. And I think that's why the manosphere is so active with certain types of black men, right? There's this sort of shared experience that black men have that other people just don't have, including black women. They don't have that experience. So when you talk about a lot of these things, um, they don't get it, right? So they come back and respond, well, what are you doing to fight white supremacy, right? Um, they actually sort of very elusive, very insulting questions to black men, as if one black man is going to go out there and tear down the system of white supremacy. That has never happened in world history. I mean, you might look at Gandhi and use him as a reference, but America is a different animal.
Even Gandhi had a few million folks with knives ready to get down.
Hmm. You don't have that in the manosphere or in the corporate workplace. I don't think you want to use a knife in the corporate workplace. Um,
Yeah, but well,
eh,
it's reference.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Some riders, right? So there's basically what
Right, 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 right.
yeah,
He had a
some
couple
riders.
million riders,
Hmm.
and it was more than 45 million.
Hmm. Hmm. But yeah, I'm gonna definitely do the hangout. I'll probably do it Saturday. I have all the documentation. I just need to touch base with a couple of the members from the group and do that based on cultural intelligence because there's a lot that needs to be learned. I think that we're not having those conversations. There's a brother that I've run into this week or last week. Um, he's in the workplace as well, but he's very standoffish against me and a couple of the other brothers in the workplace, and he thinks that you know kissing up to white women is going to advance him in the workplace. You are in for a rude awakening.
Mm.
You are in for a rude awakening, my friend.
That I was just going to make that point, Mike. That when you enter the workplace, corporate politics, corporate America is not um, is separate but equal to America as a nation. It's
Expand on that, please.
um, corporate America actually allows America as an entity to exist,
Hmm.
but America needs corporate America to exist, and so you have a different operation, uh, 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 a different mode of operation in the corporate world to when it comes to operating in the outside world. Black people tend to think that they can operate in corporate America the same way they operate in the neighborhood,
Hmm.
and it's not possible. Um, like you were saying, this one black guy, I think if he is in the group with white women, that is okay, that he's gonna, and that's what happened. I noticed that in the company I work for, that there were three of us,
Hmm.
and the white women were kind of like separate us. You get one group of white women who want to chat with one guy, another group who want to chat with another guy, another group who want to chat with another guy.
Hmm.
And then if one of us don't want to participate, we'd be asking the other, well, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with him? And one guy came back and told me that. He says, hey, these guys all want to know what's wrong with you. You're not very friendly. You're not very, I forgot that exact word that he used, but I mean, why is it that you don't want to be up in their face all the time? You know what I'm saying? And that's the way you operate in corporate America. Whereas outside, it is like politics of a different nature. You
Mhm.
know, in corporate America, there's no equality. And this, a Caucasian man told me that to my face.
Mhm.
There's no equality in here. This is a, this is not a democracy.
Mhm.
This is a, what was the word you used? But it's almost like a state where a dictatorship, where one man, it could be your, and that one man is normally your boss, decides your fate. You don't have any, you know, you don't have any recourse once you've been marked.
Mhm.
And what happened is that um, I had one black woman come up to me and throw herself at me, and I had to gently say, "Hey, look, lady, I'm married. Thank you very much. I appreciate you, but I'm married."
Mhm.
And all the other times, every other man in the company where I was that she has ever talked to were Caucasian men.
Mhm.
And it wouldn't seem like I'm observing this thing, but I do. And apparently, whoever sent her didn't know that I observe her. I keep everybody at a distance, and I prepare for a lot of things. Not everything, but for a lot of things that can happen. And I've seen that the black men would be cut off from other black men by the Caucasian women, and the black women would be cut off from the black men especially by
Mhm.
the Caucasian men.
Yep. Yep. Because he wants access to her,
Yep,
not so he can marry her, but he just wants access to her, and
yep.
he thinks that denying you and denying her access to each other is he's playing divide and conquer. But I've seen black women in the office, knocked up by married white men in the office, and a lot of those times those biracial children end up getting passed off to the black man, and his name goes on the birth certificate. Unbeknownst to him, that black woman has been compromised in the office. I used to
Fuck
work in
that
corporate
shit.
security, and I that was a very common issue that certain black women will be in certain conference rooms at certain times of the day or certain times of the night, um, doing whatever it takes to move up the corporate ladder, and she walking around with a big belly, and no one knows who the father is because she can't claim this guy as being the father because he's married in the workplace, and if that comes out, that can bring the whole company down because a whole lawsuit comes out of all that because there's fraternization in the workplace, goes against the corporate policies, and unfortunately some brother is paying child support for a child that's not biologically his, and these are our women doing this.
Fuck that shit, man. I'm sorry. That's why I like the manosphere. There's certain things you got to put a stop to, and this. Oh, you should take care of whatever, baby. That's bullshit. That no, no. Stop that. Don't think that you are more of a man because you're taking care of someone else's children. No.
But he doesn't. But what I'm saying is these guys don't know that. They don't know what some of these women, some of these sisters are doing in the corporate workplace in order to get ahead. You would never question your wife about whether or not you knocked her up or not. That's unheard of, right? That's like an unspoken vow. You just don't do that. But
To, to be
for
honest, man,
mhm,
I I assume it already happened. It already happens
mhm,
because through life experience and through hearing other men that don't even know each other tell the same exact stories, you have to already assume that that's what she does. and for her to prove to you that it doesn't happen. You
Hmm.
can't take these women as face value as some benevolent creatures. No, you have to assume that every woman does that. Period. There is no there. I'm sorry, but no. Actually, I'm not sorry, but there is no exceptions to the rule until they prove to you otherwise. You have to say that they're guilty. Same way that we as black men are guilty in the world's eyes for doing whatever the world say we do.
Hmm.
Well, we have to prove ourselves through and through whatever means that we're not that. You have to already assume that they do that. No, you have to live your life, and on top of that, you have to live your life in power.
Well, I think what society tries to do to the upstanding black man, right, the upwardly mobile brother, I think they try to project morality onto him while giving passes to everyone else, including sisters, right? Um, there's this idea that she can do something like this, but there should be no consequences for her. But if you even so as looked at another woman, um, your integrity is in question now by her, and your white male counterparts are looking at you like you're who does this guy think he is? Who does he think he is being attractive? Being a jawline, right? Um, I just find that to be a fight on two fronts that black men are up against. And no one seems to have black men's back except other black men. And even some black men will throw you under the bus, right? So
Yeah,
it's just one of those things.
but when a black guy throws you on the bus, 9 times out of 10, you can kind of gauge that. Not to say you have some type of radar, but I've had conversations with black women that speak about. As a matter of fact, I can tell you this: at the VA,
Hmm.
a guy, he's a nurse there, and he worked with a bunch of women, black women. I
Hmm.
don't give. I'm trying to filter here, and he'll say, "Yeah, man, hey, you know these women." Because he been working with them so long, he's a part of the scenery, the background, and he said, they'll just say these married women, they yeah, I had sex with this guy and all, and they messing around with some other guy. I'm like, you know what? I just assume all black women are like that. To be honest, to be dead ass, I assume all black women are just thoughts.
I wouldn't assume that because not every black woman can get a white man, right? So you have to
Not
be of a
particularly a
certain.
white man.
Well, in this regard, in this context, we're talking about workplace incidents, right? So not every black woman can get a white man because white men have a particular type about what they like about black women. Um, so a Nicki Minaj, a white man can never get that in the workplace. He can never get that. That's out of his league for the most part. So he needs a vulnerable black woman, someone who probably just came to this country from Nigeria or something like that. Feet all ashy and stuff, and hair looking nappy, right? Look like she's shop at the Goodwill. Those type of women are very vulnerable, and that's what white men look for in the workplace. Whereas someone, a upstanding black woman, they can't get that. Especially someone who's pro-black, they can't get that. But it's very rare that you find pro-black women in the workplace because that's not tolerated there, right? That sort of mantra is not tolerated. You're not going to come in there with your red, black, and green, with your RBG avatars and stuff like that. That doesn't work in those workplaces.
Yeah,
So that energy that would be required for being upstanding as a as a Pan Africanist or being pro black, that's they'll dismantle that just as soon as you come through the door.
but to be honest, that's my thinking process.
Hmm.
I'm just being serious because
Hmm.
where I'm proven right more times than not.
Hmm.
Even when I think, okay, she's cool, because I know I know someone that talk mm, like you would really do that, do it, and don't see and not will justify it.
Hmm.
I'm like, this is ridiculous. Come on, man.
It's
That
politics, man. That's workplace
mm,
politics, man. They feel that that's the way they have to get ahead. For black men, that doesn't really work. Black men are dealing with a different animal altogether because the prerequisites for dealing with workplace politics for black men, it's all about masculine enterprise. How much are you willing to sacrifice from your integrity in your career in order to endure a lot of these issues,
yeah.
a lot of the microaggressions, the closing of the elevator so you can't get on with them, and then you push the button for the elevator and it opens right back up and that elevator never left, and then
Sitting there,
you know,
instead of-
they're sitting in the elevator mad, they don't. I have to ride the elevator with this nigger. Can't they make separate elevators for these guys? And if they could, that's exactly what they would prefer. They would prefer that you take a different elevator. They would prefer that you go up the stairs while they take an elevator. They're okay with that. You know why is he shopping at Brooks Brothers? Who does he think he is, nigger?
right.
Hmm. Right? Let me see. I'll tell the story before we close out. Um, I used to deal with somebody in the workplace before, and she let's just say her name is let's say her name is Kelly, and I work on a different floor than she does, and I work in IT, so we're always in an isolated environment. And I happened to be coming up the stairs, and she was coming down the stairs, and we ran into each other, and we hadn't seen each other, probably all day, right? So all we could do is to message each other through computer, through Skype. And this white man saw us speaking, and this dude got out of his seat, walked down the aisle, and got in between us and said, "Is he bothering you, Kelly? Because if he is, you let me know, and I'll straighten this out." And I was looking at this dude like, "Really? I'm like, do you know him?" And she just shook her head like, "I don't understand this dude. Like, get lost." Like, basically. But my point in saying this is that when you sign um these forms for your hiring and stuff like that, workplace harassment and stuff like that, you're putting your name on that dotted line as an individual, in that you're going to uphold, the corporate policy. And corporate policy seems to go right out the window for these guys. They don't care. They become very volatile, very aggressive, downright angry, um, willing to sabotage you in order to get ahead. And these are powerless white men. These are white men who don't have the ability to move up in corporate America. They're just kind of, uh, for the most part, they've reached the end of their life in terms of usefulness. And I think that they see black men coming into the workplace as a big problem for them. That
Mhm.
how did he get this job? No, how did you get this job, motherfucker? How did you get it? Because apparently you're not doing much, right? And especially the darker you are as a black male, the more aggressive they seem to be um, against you. Um, so it's just a litany of things that has to be discussed. A litany of things that have to be discussed. Go ahead, D.
What you just said, I mean, bro, uh, uh, I I work. Well, one of the guys who worked for me one went to my boss. It's funny. and told my boss, why, why should this nigga tell me what to do? And the
Exactly.
funny thing is that my boss didn't do anything about it. When the story came out,
Mhm.
his boss found out about it.
Mhm.
Somebody told his boss what had happened and put his boss in the spot.
Mhm.
And this guy is under me,
Mhm.
and he think he's the boss,
Mhm.
even though he's under me. It's funny, and that's what I found throughout. Well, the area where I worked in, and I heard other black men complain about the same thing.
Mhm.
So I was just laughing at that situation with you in the elevator. And it's like
Uh,
he's got the nerve to think that he's got to protect a black woman from you.
Oh, and
You
she
know?
wasn't black, but
Oh,
the point of the matter here is that he feels that the women he's entitled to all these women, even if they
oh,
don't want him,
right,
right? So that sort of expectation of access to women, access to higher
right.
resources, access to opportunities. He believes that this belongs to me by default, and I shouldn't have to share this with anybody. So that's why you see a lot of them like Richard Spencer running around the country talking about these Asians are taking jobs from white men. No, white men are not even qualified for these jobs. All things being equal, you're not qualified for it. The highest educated black people in this country come from Nigeria and Ethiopia. The highest educated Asians, tend to be Indians and Chinese people. But there's this idea that because I'm white, that belongs to me. Those opportunities belong to me, and I'll do whatever it takes to make sure that these opportunities keep coming to me. We want to get rid of diversity and inclusion. I think we covered several articles about Facebook and Google having all these issues, and it's coming from white men. Yeah, Raining Woman in the chat says they are the real lames. Yeah, absolutely. They're definitely the real lames. That sort of heterosexual jealousy of black men, it's rampant, man. It is absolutely rampant.
But the thing is that while we don't look at it this way, it is factual. We as black people have dominated their culture
Hmm.
for thousands and thousands and thousands of years.
Hey, I'm
It's
in
only
control, but
now,
I'm gonna jump off.
All right, have a good one, brother.
How you too?
right? It's only now that they have um, risen up above us,
Hmm.
and with history show that is with our help anyway, our assistance that they're in their position. But
Hmm.
with the changing tide of rulership, they see it coming and they can't handle it. It's not only them that see it, but what you see happening now. Even Thomas Jefferson was worried about it that they can't keep the black man in that position for any length of time.
Right, there's no scalability in that thought process.
Right,
It's going to run out at some point. That there has
right.
to be.
It worried Jefferson especially
Mhm.
the future. He didn't write it. A lot of his writings are not published because of that. uh, it worried him what's going to happen down the road
Mhm.
if he tried to maintain this slavery process.
Mhm.
Not just in the field, but freeing the black man. What's going to happen when you free the black man? What's going to happen?
Mhm. But yeah, and uh, their skill sets, their ambitions have led black men to create in all types of things that has moved Western society. Electricity, um, cars, not cars, but the components and mechanisms for most of your modern vehicles have come from black men. Um, things as small and minute as the dustpan and the mop and the broom that we know of today came from black men.
Yep. The refrigeration unit that we have today was created by a black man who didn't even have a formal education.
Mm-hmm.
And you can imagine somebody who you're talking about this guy tonight who learned the code.
Mm-hmm.
Just somebody said, you know what, you ought to go learn how to do this, and he go try it, and guess what? Brother liked it, and now he's getting paid for doing something that is like almost like a hobby to him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened to a lot of black men.
Uh-huh.
You know, they look at something and there's this, you know what, I can do this,
Right.
and they go out and do it.
Mm-hmm. Right, and they're beating those white men at their own game, right? So um, that's where the frustration is coming from because their perception is that you are inferior to them, but in reality, this is not true, right? We're demonstrating this every single day, um, and the only thing that's stopping us from actually moving up is opportunity, not
Yep.
not not anything else, right? So these guys are going to come to a point where one, they don't reproduce enough children, and two, um, their opportunities are starting to decline as well because the sort of industries that they once dominated in are now in somewhere in Southeast Asia or inside or outside of Mexico or something like that. Um, so a lot of their economic power came through these opportunities that were wrongfully given to them, right? Just based on the premise that they were white and they were male, gave them these opportunities, for the last 100 years. Now it's getting to a point where being a white male is no longer is no longer a viable aspect of corporate America. You can't just use that anymore. That doesn't work anymore. And maybe it works for white women, right? Because white
Mhm.
women make up the majority of affirmative action, but for white men, that's not the case.
See, look, I saw an article today. Somebody, I think it's anti-gravity sent me an article about this cell phone that's manufactured in Botswana, but it's black guy.
Hmm.
And if this is the future that we're looking at.
Hmm.
It is the future. I mean, and with the technology, the improvement in technology, it's only going to get to a point where the change is going to accelerate. Mike, you know about this. I mean,
Hmm.
it starts out, it just looks like nothing is happening. And by the time people who are not really looking at the situation and say, well, wait a minute, how did this happen? It's like when all the jobs start, when all the factories start moving to China, when it get to a point where not when it began, nobody noticed it when it began except the few people who got laid off, and nobody even were even concerned about that. Everybody thought they were protected.
Hmm.
But when it hit the 50% mark, when cars were no longer being made in America, that's when people started paying attention.
Hmm.
The Chinese are taking our jobs. Chinese didn't take your jobs. You know,
Right. They,
Chinese
they
didn't take
they need a
your jobs.
scapegoat. They needed a scapegoat to justify their failures and their inadequacies. Um,
Yep.
and that's where the problem is because now before they would just blame black men. Now they're blaming Chinese men. Oh, the Chinese are stealing this and they're stealing that, so we need to put tariffs on them, right? So Trump has made this a political talking point for himself at the by way of the inadequate, powerless white male, right? The guy who really can't, who probably works at Walmart, making whatever he makes per hour, and who totes himself as being this select guy. He's really not the select guy, right? Whether it's corporate America or it's with women, he's just not that select guy. Especially based on the way his body odor, right? Most black women don't want that. They're not interested in that.
See, a lot of problems we don't see. We blind ourselves to a lot of problems. Is that, take for instance, uh, I don't know, some small town in America, 15, 20 Caucasians get together and
Mhm.
go beat up one black guy.
Hmm.
That shows their weakness. They will not attack you one on one.
Because it's a group dynamic, which is what I was saying earlier, right? In order for that sort of, in order for racism to work at that level, it needs numbers. It needs strength in numbers. Um, and what's happening is that black men are finding themselves isolated in some of these environments, and that's the perfect opportunity for them. But when you if you're trying to build your workplace and have diversity and inclusion, it's incumbent upon you to break up those white circles so that they cannot latch onto each other, so that they can exercise that sort of group dynamic. So what I'm saying here is that that racism in the workplace will eventually start to dissipate when you break up those circles that has naturally uh, been the incubator of a lot of a lot of corporate issues. I know some corporations that spent millions of dollars over the years, like over the last 10 years, just trying to fight cases of discrimination and racism in the workplace and sexism and things like that. And it's usually 9 times out of 10 coming from white males, whether they're Gen Xers or baby boomers, especially. They seem to have a problem interacting with non-white people, but everybody else has to adjust themselves to them, where in reality it should be these guys adjusting themselves to everybody else, but they can't make that adjustment because they lack cultural intelligence themselves, which is why I talk about cultural intelligence on this channel. They don't speak any other language other than racism, other than white supremacy, other than extremism. They don't know any other way of how to interact with other groups of people outside of those dynamics.
Right? The funny thing is that some of the ideas that will save you a lot of heartache will come from the same people who you don't like
Hmm.
and who you like to kill off and get rid of. The ideas in their head is like mind. The science, the saying, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. But when he will see himself as the only mind on the block,
Hmm.
but in reality, he is scared of the other mind coming up.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely, definitely. So key points to take away from this is that black men need to network more in these environments. Even if you're not in that environment, you need to be in that industry, connecting with other people on LinkedIn, other black men on LinkedIn. Uh, don't always try to go toe to toe with some of these guys. You know, you got to leverage uh, um, your legal frameworks and infrastructure, such as human resources and consulting with a lawyer. Um, that really sets these companies off when they see a black man show up with a lawyer. That becomes a problem.
Yep. You always is like you guys brought up a subject the other day that about this guy who was a doctor and when he decided to quit, his business was no longer in existence. And that's one of the things. From the time you decided that you want to be in business, or say you want to be writing code, when you start writing code, you associate with people who write code, and then you find other people who want to learn it and bring them into the field. Because the more people they are, I can bet you that it's going to help expand the ideas that you have yourself. Because you might be thinking about something, and then somebody else that you were talking to or dealing with, you might just in the casual conversation with them, they will start talking about the same subject, and you said, "Man, I've been thinking about this," and your idea is really brilliant. You know what I'm saying? So you not only in the workplace, you got somebody there that you can is like your numbers because everybody now can't watch. You can only if you can watch. They got somebody watching one man, but if you got 10 people in there, it takes more manpower to watch all 10 of these. And that can create a problem. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm. Yeah, star in the chat says go to EOE for assistance. EOE is equal opportunity employment for assistance. Definitely, that's definitely a good resource. But we're gonna be going over a lot of that in our hangout on Black cultural intelligence because I think it should be discussed. All right. With that being said, we're gonna close out for tonight. Thank you all for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow with Black cultural intelligence, African growth and opportunity, and it starts at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, thank you all for joining us, and we are out.
All right. Good night.